Life is like riding a bike. To keep your balance, you have to keep moving. Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new, I'm Amanda. Welcome to the channel where we are all about shattering the mental health stigma. If you haven't already, please make sure you make sweet, sweet love to that subscribe button. Give the bell a few kisses so you're not missing any of this content designed to help you with your mental health or help someone else. Today, I'm going to be giving Cemetery Gates by Pantera a listen for the very first time. I've only listened to one other Pantera song, which I reacted to here on the channel. This wasn't a request from a Patreon, just something I saw you guys requesting a lot here in the comments. If you haven't had a chance to check out my Patreon, please make sure to do so. Link is in the description. Every single dime goes toward my mental health outreach, including helping a lot of people here in the community. Without further ado, let's dive into Cemetery Gates by Pantera, see what is in store for me today. There is so much energy here, so many different kinds of energy already to this song. I feel like it's just all over the place, but the Reverend opening, I think is questioning faith and the authority that instilled this faith. And the mention of conspiracy shows a skepticism about the traditional views on life and death. So I feel like cultures always instill these particular views on life and death, and this is him questioning it. And then it moves on to mentioning crucified for no sins, which I can certainly relate to, where I feel like people are judging me for things that they don't understand. So it's indicating that he's feeling unfairly judged. And I think with that comes this yearning for redemption, and that really encompasses the religious, dogmatic lyrics here. Is this feeling like you're crucified for no reason and yearning for redemption, wanting to know, well, how could I possibly make things right if I don't feel like I did anything wrong? But there's also some talk of being lost in life and it seeming surreal. And this is exactly what happens to me every time I experience an existential crisis. Is you start just wondering, well, is this even real? What's the point? What's the meaning of life? And I have to continuously remind myself, well, the point of life is to live it in whatever way we feel will give us the fullest experience, the best experience. I don't think there is some higher meaning to life. I think that the meaning to life is living it.
Well, I guess you took my youth and gave it all away. Like the birth of a newfound joy, this love would end in rage. And when she died, I couldn't cry the pride within my soul. You left me incomplete, all alone as the memories never fade.
yes, 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 yes. There's a lot to unpack. There's always a lot to unpack. What am I talking about? But in this specific instance, there's a lot to unpack about abandonment and betrayal, and I just happen to be an expert on those two things and processing those two things, feeling like you can fall apart, you can hit rock bottom, you can absolutely lose your mind, and nobody in your vicinity flinches. You feel like nobody cares because nobody even flinches when you are at rock bottom, losing your mind. You feel like you've wasted your time, often your best years, suffering and holding on to people who just didn't serve us or who turned on us, we felt turned on us in the end. Also an expert on that. And one of the things that really got me past that mindset was I was having a conversation with another friend who got divorced. And I also got divorced around the same time. And he was saying, it's not like I wasted my life. I had this beautiful story, and that story came to an end. And maybe that story had a lot of pitfalls, a lot of twists, a lot of tragedy, but it was still part of the story, and that story came to an end. And now it's time to move on to a new chapter. But then there's the repression that's being referred to here in this song, which becomes a coping mechanism that a lot of people turn to, often subconsciously, because they don't know how to process. We're never taught to process things, right? So they don't know how to process. And the inability to cry, that hit me really deep. The inability to cry after a significant loss may indicate a struggle with processing and expressing grief, because again, we're not taught to do that. And especially men in our culture are taught that tears make you less of a man, or that it can make you vulnerable, which isn't true. It helps you process so that you can get back to that strength. I mean, there's strength in crying. So it's not even getting back to that. There's strength in letting your emotions out, so long as you're doing it in an effective and healthy way. But I really like the part about I must reverse my life. I can't live in the past, because that shows a willingness to start picking up the pieces and moving forward toward healing.
Believe
There were so many unexpected sounds and unexpected turns in the song. I feel like I was just in awe. I feel like I kept getting shocked by the layers to this. But and when she died, I should have cried and spared myself some pain. I wanted to go back to that because we did mention that a bit, but he's realizing that the repression of his emotions, like we were talking about, only extends their shelf life. So trying to repress feeling sad or feeling grief or feeling anger or feeling fear, whatever the case is, trying to repress that only extends the shelf life of those emotions. And when we can cry, when we can get those things out, that helps us move past them. And it might not be crying once. It probably won't be crying once. It probably will be crying many times, breaking down many times, getting angry, sometimes even breaking stuff. There are rooms for that now, by the way. But there's going to be so many times that you have to let those emotions come and go so that you can move past them. And it's a process. It takes time. At first, I thought that talking about unlocking the cemetery gates was going to have a darker meaning, that it was alluding to letting go. But I think that the idea of death here is far more symbolic. I think that it's talking about a transition, that it's representing a journey from one phase of life to the next. So when my mom passed away, for example, that was my life for 22 years. And then I had to transition to this other part of my life. And it required a lot of mourning, a lot of tears, a lot of anger, till I finally got to the acceptance phase. And sometimes I still don't accept it, but there's a transition from one part of the life to the next that we have to understand that that part of us does die in some way. When my mom passed away, there's a part of me that died with her. But that doesn't mean that I can't connect to other parts of myself or that I can't have a meaningful existence without her here. It still hurts. And it's been many, many years, but I can still find meaning. I can still find ways to connect with her. I can still find ways to honor her and my dad, even though there was this transitionary phase. But the desire to set the soul free and belong to oneself signifies this quest for independence and self-discovery. And there's such an importance of learning about yourself and learning to be with yourself and learning to be happy with yourself. I have lost my parents, I've lost friends, I've gotten divorced, I've went through many breakups. There has been a lot of loss in my life, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, but there's been a lot of loss in my life. And I think the biggest mistake that I made, or the biggest lesson I learned, we'll say, the biggest lesson I learned is that the more I tried to say, I need this person, I need this, the less I would learn about myself, the less I would know about myself, the less I would connect with myself. And when I finally spent a couple years living on my own and truly being independent, truly finding out what it was I liked, what it was I didn't like, what it was that made me happy, when I finally started moving through those emotions, when I finally allowed myself to grieve and I allowed myself to be present with that grief and not try to change it, just sit with it, and when I really started being authentic with myself, that's when real healing started taking place. That's when I was able to start coming out of the darkness. And sometimes I still fall into that. Sometimes I still fall into moments of despair, days, sometimes even weeks of despair. But for the most part, now I'm in a much healthier place. And it's because I took time to get to know myself. I took time to heal instead of trying to attach to other people to deal with loss and deal with grief. Thank you so much for suggesting this song. I don't remember the other Pantera song having so many ups and downs. It was just like this fun little roller coaster. So thank you for taking me on a ride today. As always, make sure you're sharing your stories here in the comments, good, bad, and crazy. That's how we shadow the mental health stigma, is by talking about it. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, share it. You never know who might need to hear this message today. And I love you guys so much. Mwah.